Nowadays, YouTuber is always at the top of the list of jobs people want to become. Until recently, it was often looked at with a suspicious eye, but I think it has quickly gained citizenship in the past few years due to the large amount of money that can be earned and the entry of celebrities. Of course, behind every successful person, there are many times more who have failed, and I was also what you would call a failure, a YouTuber at the bottom of the pile. A few years ago, my friend and I started being YouTubers seriously, but the number of views never grew, and I was struggling. People don't pay attention to a channel with two amateur guys. One day, a YouTuber's content caught my attention. The video I found is around the front of the smoking area, pointing to people smoking cigarettes and leaving trash on the ground. The content was that they could enjoy the sometimes harrowing stories, such as arguments and troubles. Frankly speaking, this could be done by an amateur, and if the content is screaming off, it could earn a lot of views. In some countries, this would be too dangerous. But fortunately, we are in Japan. It is a peaceful country. I thought this was it. And as it turns out, I was right. Our smoking caution video was not a huge success, but it got a lot more views than the previous one. Arguments and other troubles occurred frequently, but they made for good scenes. After all, trouble leads to more views. At first, I was a bit jumpy to warn them, but from the middle of the day, I deliberately raised my voice and began to warn them over a fight. No matter how heated things got because of the camera, it was never like that side was going to hit me. And every time I was praised in the comments, I felt like a hero who had defeated the evil. At this time, I had come to think that since I was doing the right thing, it didn't matter if I was a little pushy. My videos were getting a steady stream of views. One day, I went out to the smoking area to shoot the video, as I always do. There weren't that many people there that day because it was lunchtime on a weekday, but I spotted a middle-aged man who had stepped out of the smoking area and was smoking a cigarette. I said to the old man, "You have to smoke inside." The man either didn't hear me or ignored me and didn't respond in any way. I thought I could get some good footage, so I said, "Can't you hear me? Aren't you ashamed of yourself? An adult man who can't even follow the rules." I gradually raised the volume of my voice and threw them at him. The man looked down a little and ignored me, as if he didn't care about me at all. Slightly miffed at the gesture, I said in the man's ear, "Please get inside." I kept repeating loudly. The man, who has shown no reaction until now, suddenly moved his face closer to me and muttered quietly, "You are going to die." The sudden change in the man's behavior made me mutter, "What?" For a while, I was surprised by the sudden reaction of the man who had been unresisting, and then he quickly disappeared into the crowd. When it was over, it was a common occurrence. Usually, when an argument breaks out, the other party often throws out a few words and then disappears. I just thought it was a creepy trash line at the time, and of course, I kept shooting after that. Well, in the end, the day ended without much trouble and with almost no takeout. The problem arose on the way home that day. After the shoot, I was just walking down a deserted alley when I left my friends and headed home. A large van-like vehicle stopped in front of me from behind, and a young man came out from inside. Then I passed out. When I came back, I was in the car. I could not see anything around me because I had a cloth-like thing over my head. I had no idea what was going on and was starting to panic when I realized that even my arms and legs were tied with some kind of string. What? Where am I? I muttered unintentionally, and the men's chattering voices stopped. Someone asked, "Are you awake?" Someone else said, "You got involved with people you shouldn't have gotten involved with." The man began to explain. My mind suddenly flashed back to the face of that elderly man from the daytime. "It's a crime. I have it on video, so I'm calling the police," I said, slurring my words. Another man blurted out, "How can a dead body call the police?" They take that as a cue. The guys around me began to laugh with a thud. Oh no, oh no, oh no. My off-the-cuff threats were worthless. The unusual space crushed me with anxiety and fear, and I apologized many times crying, which is a shameful thing to say. But in the car, every time I apologized, there was only the sound of men laughing. I was covered with a cloth and my hands and feet were tied for a while. To be honest, I was so scared that I don't remember any sense of time, but the car stopped and I was carried somewhere as they carried me outside. That's where they took the cloth from my head, but I had no idea what was going on outside because it looked like they had put another blindfold on my eyes. I kept apologizing and begging for forgiveness, shaking my pathetic, wobbly legs. I didn't understand what was going on, but I did understand that it was incredibly frightening. Then they told me to be quiet, and some of them made me lie down on the floor and held my head just so that my ears were attached to the ground. I was in a panic because I had no idea what they were going to do to me. And then there was a barely audible twinge in the ear of the one not on the ground, and the next moment. And then, with a tremendous crash, I felt the most intense pain I have ever felt in my ears. My body was so seized up by the shock I had never felt before that I could not scream. I felt something pour into my ears again when I heard the man's voice say, "One more." The pain was so intense that it sounded as if a blood vessel was bursting. All I could say was, "You," and my body was about to convulse regardless of my consciousness. "Do you want to be released from suffering?" The man asked me that as if writhed in agony. My face was messed with tears and snot and kept nodding down. The man continued to unilaterally impose several conditions on me, and I continued to nod down. After a while, I heard the men whispering and I was carried back to the car. The only sound in the car was the sound of my stiffly shaking body, but no one was laughing anymore. Within 10 minutes the car stopped, the restraints were taken off my hands and feet, and I was lowered out of the car. Someone told me to take the cloth off after 5 minutes, but to my horror I froze, not taking it off for over 30 minutes. When I finally made up my mind and took the cloth, there was no one there, only the riverbed. With shaky legs, I ran looking for a place where people could pass, and after about 10 minutes, I reached the city, found a convenience store, and ran to the restroom. As soon as I entered the private room, I burst into tears and fell to my knees. After a while, when I calmed down and looked in the mirror, I saw a dried, red, blood-like residue from my ear, and when I wiped it off, it smelled sour with a twang. That liquid they put in my ear seemed to be Tabasco. I hurriedly washed my face, and this time there was a dull pain in the back of my head, and when I touched it, there was blood. So it seems that I was hit with something here as well. I washed what was on my face anyway and decided to leave immediately. Many things crossed my mind, including the police and hospitals, but there was no way I could overcome my fear. As it turns out, this was a good thing, but when I got home, there was a bottle of Tabasco in front of my door. I moved to the countryside as if I were fleeing in the night. It's been a long time since then, and I've never been in touch with the friend I was shooting with. The fact that I haven't heard anything from him either tells me that he was in the same situation as I was. I, of course, stopped being a YouTuber and deleted all my videos. Of course, I've adapted some of it in places, but all of it is factual as I experienced it. There are some people in this world that you should never get involved with. It's not like a ghost or anything, but it was the most awful experience of my life.